What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. You are now tuned in to the Relationship Theater. I'm your host, Cornell Dane, and we're going to continue down the path that we've already started down. We've talked about some of the fundamentals with our relationships, and many of these fundamentals apply whether the relationship is romantic, whether it is a familial relationship, whether it is a relationship between parent and child, occupational, professional. All of this stuff applies. And we've talked about what's there, what's present, what's going well in some cases, but mostly what's not going so well. And today is going to be no different. Today we're going to discuss what I think is the through line, the major through line. If we're going down to a first principles kind of understanding of what is really holding back the community with regards to its success, with regards to its ability to rebuild and restore itself today. And I think that through line is, as we've discussed in the polygyny versus mentorship debate, that through line is a dearth of heroes. Now, there have been plenty of heroes in eras before this one. And I'm sure there's some heroes now, but there aren't a lot of people, or it appears there aren't a lot of people who discuss heroism or heroicism. There's no one planning to be a hero. And what that means, or what that suggests to me, is that heroicism is a cultural construct. Sorry, I didn't get that out right. A cultural construct. And the fact that it is a cultural construct is even more alarming, because it means that it is a type of belief or a value that the people themselves within that culture, they all hold. They hold dear. They value it. And this disinterest in heroicism or heroism suggests that it's not something of value within our community. And you see it and you hear it in the conversations that we're having about our relationships. There's a lack of self-sacrifice for the least of these among us, for our children, for our wives, for the neighbor next door. No one wants to sacrifice themselves for a greater cause. Everyone believes that there's no reward for that the culture itself doesn't value that. And we can see in many cases where people have sacrificed themselves, have given their all for the community, and those people have died or gotten sick, and no one from that community that they sacrificed themselves for came to help them. So it's not completely unfounded that someone might be turned off to the idea of sacrificing themselves for others. Not at all. Not at all. However, I also say that it's a cultural construct because if we look at some other communities, i.e. the Muslim community, we see examples where heroes are held in high regard. As a matter of fact, heroicism or heroics or heroism is a means of recruiting for certain people within that community. And again, I'm not promoting anything. I'm just showing how this idea as a cultural construct puts on display the values and the beliefs of the people within that culture. Okay, and again, Islam is they're people from all over the world. It's not it's not as if this is a homogeneous thing. There's some homogeneity, but there's some cultures that are in different situations have their backs against the walls differently than other cultures, right? So I just want to put that out there. But think about that. Think about how this is something of value. They are recruiting heroes. And much as like those people are recruiting heroes in that culture, in that religion, the people within black culture should be recruiting heroes as well. However, no one, at least on the male side, I see more heroicism or heroics from women these days, to be honest, than I do from the men. And I'm just talking about in terms of speech. I'm talking about in terms of creating something for the collective and sacrificing for the collective. I see more of that on the women's side than I do on the male side. And we've had conversations about that before. And so why is it that we've been caught lacking? Why is there a dearth of this virtue of selflessness and sacrifice within our community? Well, it suggests that the reward is higher when thinking of oneself than it is when thinking of the collective. And this is popping up. I don't want anybody to read too much into this. This pops up in a myriad of ways. It doesn't have to be super complicated where you think that this is about some sort of system where you're creating, I don't know, a separatist nation of people. No, we're talking about there are instances where people are quick to hurt other people within their group. And, i.e., black on black crime. But black on black crime isn't just guns. It happens in other ways as well. I know of an instance where someone chose to patronize another business rather than patronize a business of their cousin. They, instead of eating at their cousin's restaurant because they have a problem with their cousin, they chose not to patronize that cousin's business and restaurant. You have Lil Boosie. If any of you are familiar with Lil Boosie, he's having an issue with his own brother. His own brother apparently stole his artist, forged his name on documents, got power of attorney, and took everything, including stuff from the actual artist himself, which is amazing. But there's this sort of cannibalism that occurs as a result because no one's thinking about the collective. It is all individual. And this societal focus on individualism is probably to blame for a lack of societal focus on collectivism and working together. So the question then becomes, how do you get people to change that self-interest or convert it or transfer it into a collective good? How? I mean, at this point, you've seen so many people give and not be rewarded. What benefit is there? Why should someone be selfless? And I think that's the dilemma that many people face. Aside from the fact that it's just not talked about. Nobody's recruiting heroes anymore. Actually, that's not true. We are recruiting heroes, and I'll tell you how. Many of us understand that there are some issues in our community, primarily with our youth and also with our elderly. We have a lot of youth that are unsupervised, but also not being disciplined correctly, not being guided and steered and stewarded in a fashion that would allow them to be productive people for the community in the future. And that could also be because there's a lack of plan for the community, for the future of the community anyway. Maybe there is no community, which is another video almost all in itself. But this spillover of selfishness is rearing its ugly head when we have these conversations about relationships. I believe that men are supposed to be, especially when you look at the benefits of being a man, when you talk about polygyny and some of these other things, it exists. But it doesn't exist in a lazy way or in a way that is unilaterally beneficial to the man. It exists in a way where those men have to become twice, 3 times, 4 times a man in order to maintain that particular ecosystem. And you don't see that often. You don't see men walking around who are willing to put the world on their shoulders, to carry that burden, much like the Greek, I think it's a god, Greek god Atlas. You see the man with the earth on his shoulders. That's got to be what it's like to have multiple wives, to be a father to many, many children, to even the children that aren't yours in some cases, to pick up a gun and fight for your family, for your country, for your nation, for your land. That's got to be what it's about when you've got to fix cars and you've got to make sure the mailbox is repaired, or you've got to make sure that the shed is put up, or you've got to manage that situation. You've got to make sure it gets done. And I don't hear enough talk about that, but I do hear a lot of talk about polygyny as a solution. And I don't think that's the solution. The solution is we need heroes. Now, to bring his name back up again one more time, Dr. Umar. I think Dr. Umar is attractive to many women within the black community because what he's attempting to do, or what he says he's attempting to do, because he hasn't done it yet, but what he appears to be attempting to do, that's a better way of saying it, what he appears to be attempting to do is heroic. It appears selfless and sacrificial. And so I think that's one of the reasons why he's still relevant even today, even though he has not been able to accomplish his goal. However, the support that he's gotten seems selfish because many people, because of what I just spoke about in terms of our understanding of heroics and the value that we place on heroes. If Umar is a hero in terms, or his idea is heroic, our lack of support shows that the community itself is disinterested in heroes. And that, my friend or friends, is the more difficult issue. Because, as I've said before, it then becomes a societal, cultural problem. Anyway, feel free to comment below. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hopefully this was an interesting topic. And I'll see you on the other side. Peace.